Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into something super interesting, the world where psychiatry meets society.
Ooh, that sounds fascinating.
Yeah, we've got some really cool stuff to dig into. Like, we've got excerpts from this book by Mario Maj called Psychiatry and Society.
Okay,
And then we have some data from the World Health Organization, the WHO,
got it.
and a bunch of research studies about, all the social aspects of mental health.
Wow, a lot to unpack.
Yeah, so basically, we're going to try to figure out how all these societal factors, like where you live, your job, your relationships, all of that stuff, how does that actually shape your mental well-being,
All
and
right.
what does that mean for all of us?
Yeah, totally.
So this book by Mario Maj, it's really kind of like a challenge to think about mental health in a new way.
Oh, how so?
Well, he says that we need to move beyond just focusing on the biology, like the brain chemistry of mental illness,
Yeah,
and actually acknowledge that there are all these social, economic, cultural forces that are at play as well.
that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not just all in your head, it's also about the world around you.
I see.
And he has this great quote. He says, mental health is not merely a personal issue,
Okay.
but is inextricably woven into the fabric of social,
Yeah,
economic, and cultural realities.
that's deep.
Yeah.
So, like, our environment shapes our mental well-being just as much as, like, our genetics.
Exactly. That's what he's saying.
That's a really interesting perspective.
It really is. And then we look at this WHO data and it's like, whoa, this is kind of a reality check.
What does it say?
So get this. Over 264 million people worldwide are dealing with depression.
Wow.
That's a huge number.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
It is. And it really makes you think, what is going on?
Yeah, what is contributing to this global prevalence of mental illness?
Right. We hear about poverty and mental health being linked.
Right.
But what does the research actually say about how socioeconomic status really impacts well-being?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Is it just about not having enough money, or is there more to it?
Well, the research shows that poverty actually creates like this cascade of stressors.
Oh, interesting.
It's not just about like lacking the financial resources. It's
Yeah.
about that chronic stress of just trying to make ends meet every single day.
Right, yeah.
And then like the lack of access to healthcare, to good food,
Oh, yeah.
and even living in neighborhoods that maybe aren't safe.
So it's like it's all connected.
Right. All these constant pressures, they just wear down a person's resilience.
Wow.
Makes them way more vulnerable to those mental health challenges.
It's a domino effect.
Exactly.
One stressor leads to another.
Yeah, it just keeps building.
And it's not just poverty, right?
Right.
We were talking about the research and discrimination and social exclusion. They also impact mental health.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're constantly being marginalized or facing prejudice, that takes a toll, right?
For sure.
Imagine being denied opportunities, being stereotyped, even experiencing violence just because of who you are.
That's got to be so hard.
It is, and it can lead to feelings of powerlessness,
Oh, yeah.
hopelessness. It affects your mental well-being,
Right.
like a constant weight on your shoulders impacting every part of your life.
Totally.
And then on top of all of that, those kind of big picture systemic issues, you have individual stressors too.
Well, yeah.
You lose your job or you go through a really bad breakup.
Mm-hmm.
Those can be tipping points for anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regardless of your background.
Everyone has a breaking point.
Exactly. I remember reading this one study, I think it was in one of the research papers we have, about this woman who lost her job during a big economic downturn.
Oh, yeah?
And it really highlighted how everything is connected,
How so?
Your work, your relationships, your sense of self, it's all tied to your mental health.
It's all intertwined.
It is. And losing a job, it's not just about the money. It's about your identity. It's about your purpose. Who am I if I'm not working?
Yeah, you can feel lost.
Yeah, you can feel worthless. You can fall into despair.
Makes sense.
So it's really complicated.
It really is.
All of these individual experiences and these big societal pressures.
Mm-hmm.
But what I thought was really interesting was this idea of social capital.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Yeah, have you heard of that?
Yeah, but I'm not totally sure what it means.
So it's basically like the glue that holds a community together.
Okay.
It's that feeling of trust and belonging and reciprocity,
Mhm.
I trust my neighbors, I feel like I belong in this community, and we all kind of look out for each other.
Got it.
And when you have strong social capital, you feel supported.
Yeah.
You feel connected.
You feel like you have people you can rely on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that feeling of belonging It acts as a buffer against stress.
Oh, interesting.
Right? It's like, okay, I can handle this because I know I've got people.
Yeah, you're not alone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the research shows that people who live in communities with like high social capital, they actually have better mental health outcomes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're more resilient.
Right.
They can bounce back from tough times better.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a stronger sense of hope for the future.
Makes you wonder what kind of communities foster that the most.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
what are the ingredients?
That's a great question.
We've talked a lot about the negative stuff, you know?
Right.
The societal forces that can hurt your mental health.
The poverty, the discrimination, the stress.
Yeah, but what about stigma?
Yeah, stigma.
That feels like it's such a huge barrier for people
Oh, totally.
to seeking help and getting better.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
I think the stigma around mental illness is, like, so pervasive, and it's really damaging.
It really is.
People with mental health conditions, they get stereotyped so much.
Yeah.
Like they're dangerous or unreliable or weak.
Like they can't handle things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that makes them afraid to talk about their struggles.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to be judged
Right.
or rejected.
Like they keep it all bottled up inside.
Yeah, and it keeps them isolated and suffering in silence.
Yeah, it breaks my heart to think about people who need help, but they're too afraid to ask.
Because of those misconceptions.
Because of those misconceptions, exactly.
Yeah.
One of the studies we were looking at, I think it mentioned this young man who had schizophrenia.
Oh, wow.
And he said that the illness itself wasn't the hardest part.
Oh, really?
It was the way people looked at him.
Like he was different.
Yeah, like he was a monster.
Wow, that's awful.
It's just a heartbreaking example of how stigma adds this whole other layer of pain
Yeah,
to a situation that's already so tough.
to an already difficult situation, yeah.
It really makes you realize how important it is to challenge those stereotypes
Absolutely.
and to just create a more open dialogue around mental health.
We need more understanding and compassion.
We do, yeah. Like, how do we even start to break down these barriers?
That's the big question.
It is.
Yeah. Well, I think breaking down stigma, it takes like a multifaceted approach.
Mm-hmm.
You know, education is definitely key.
Okay.
We need to give people accurate information about mental health.
Mm-hmm.
You know, get rid of all those harmful myths and stereotypes
Right, yeah.
that fuel discrimination.
It's like, you said multifaceted. It's like a multi-pronged approach.
Yeah.
Education is one prong, but what are some other prongs?
Well, we need to create spaces where people feel safe.
Safe to talk.
Yeah. To share their experiences without feeling judged.
Okay.
And that's where social support comes in.
Right.
You know, having a strong network.
Yeah, your people.
Yeah, people you can rely on, that makes a huge difference.
It's a world of difference, yeah.
It really does.
Speaking of support, we were talking about Mario Maja's book earlier.
Right.
He talks about this thing called network interventions as a way to address social isolation
Right.
and to build those supportive connections.
Yeah.
What does that actually look like? Like, what is a network intervention?
I mean, think of it like strategies to strengthen those social ties,
Okay.
to create supportive communities.
Okay.
They can take a lot of different forms.
Okay.
You know, it could be support groups.
Okay.
Where people can connect with others who have similar experiences.
Right. Shared experiences.
Yeah, and learn from each other.
Right.
Or it could be like peer counseling.
Oh, yeah, where you're talking to someone who's
Exactly, who's walked a similar path.
Yeah.
And they can offer guidance and encouragement.
That's great.
Yeah, can be really helpful.
Yeah, so it's really about leveraging like the power of shared experience
Exactly.
and kind of building up that community.
And that sense of belonging, like you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, that you're not alone.
Exactly. You're not alone in this.
Yeah, so community-based initiatives, that's like a big piece of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Creating those supportive environments.
They can play a huge role.
Do you remember that study from Denmark?
Oh, yeah, the one with the program.
Yeah,
Mhm.
where they combine skills training
Right.
with network interventions and access to mental health services.
That was really successful.
And they saw like huge improvement.
Yeah, it was remarkable.
It really shows that like a holistic approach where you're addressing individual needs, but also those social factors.
Yeah, those broader factors.
Really can make a difference.
It can make a huge difference.
It's inspiring,
It is. It gives you hope.
to see those kind of success stories.
Yeah, it shows that it's possible.
And it underscores the fact that recovery, it's not just about individual effort.
Right.
It's about creating a society that actually supports mental well-being.
That's a great point.
It takes a village.
It does. It takes a village.
We've talked about, the more traditional approaches to mental health. But I'm curious, like, what about technology? Oh, interesting.
What role does that play?
Yeah.
It feels like it could be a double-edged sword, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Technology can be both
Right.
a powerful tool and a potential source of harm.
Like, on one hand, it can connect people
Right, people who might be isolated.
who might not have access otherwise.
Exactly.
And it can provide, like, valuable information.
Yeah, and resources.
It's like, think about online support groups
Mm.
or apps that help manage stress and anxiety.
Those can be lifelines for some people.
Right, they can be.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
But it's not all good.
No. Technology has a shadow side, too.
Yeah, I can see that.
Social media,
Oh, yeah.
it can fuel those feelings of inadequacy,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
anxiety, social comparison.
Like, everyone's life is perfect except mine.
Exactly, that constant barrage of, like, curated perfection.
Makes you feel bad.
Yeah, it can make you feel like you're not good enough.
Not measuring up.
Not at all.
And the pressure to be constantly connected.
Oh, yeah.
That can lead to burnout.
Totally, it's exhausting.
It is.
Yeah, you got to be mindful.
Mindful of how you're using it.
Yeah, set boundaries to protect your mental well-being.
It's about finding that balance.
Exactly.
Being intentional, like, okay, I'm going to use technology for this, but I'm not going to let it take over my life.
Right, you're in control.
Okay, so technology, good and bad.
It's a tool. Like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
You have to be careful.
We do.
Okay, so I want to play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay, go for it.
Some people might say, you know, mental health, that's your responsibility.
Right.
Like, yeah, social factors play a role.
Sure.
But you can't blame society for your problems.
Interesting point.
Like, you have to take ownership of your own mental well-being.
Right, like personal responsibility.
How would you respond to that?
Well, I mean, it's true that individual agency is important.
Okay.
You know, we have the power to make choices,
We do.
to adopt healthy coping mechanisms,
Yeah.
and to seek support when we need it.
Well, true.
But
It's crucial to recognize that individual choices are always made within a context.
okay, what do you mean by that?
Okay, imagine two people. Okay,
Okay.
they're facing the same challenge, let's say unemployment.
Okay, lost their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One person, they have a strong support system.
Okay.
They've got access to financial resources,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a strong sense of self-efficacy.
Okay, they believe in themselves.
Yeah, they believe they can get through it.
Okay.
The other person, they're isolated,
Okay.
struggling to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And they're burdened by, like, negative beliefs about
Oh,
themselves.
both they feel hopeless.
Yeah, they feel stuck.
Okay.
Do you think those two people have an equal chance of overcoming that challenge?
No, not at all.
Right.
The first person has like a huge advantage.
A much stronger foundation
Yeah,
to draw from, which makes them way more resilient.
they can bounce back.
Exactly.
Okay.
So why personal responsibility is important?
It is important.
We can't ignore the fact that some people face way bigger obstacles
Right.
and systemic barriers that make it so much harder to be mentally healthy.
To even get to that point.
Yeah, it's like expecting everyone to win a marathon
Okay.
when some runners are starting miles behind the starting line.
Wow, that's a great analogy.
It's not a fair race.
It's not a fair race, no.
So we need to level the playing field
Level the playing field.
and address those systemic inequities
Right.
that are holding so many people back.
Yeah, that are preventing them from achieving mental well-being.
Exactly.
Okay, so this brings us back to social interventions.
Mm.
We need to figure out what actually works.
What's most effective?
How do we implement it?
Yeah.
How do we make sure it reaches the people who need it most?
That's where the real work begins.
That is where the real work begins.
It's not enough to just talk about the problem.
We have to do something.
We have to act.
Okay, before we jump into solutions, though,
Okay.
I want to touch on something else.
Okay.
Storytelling.
Story.
We've shared a few stories today.
We have the woman who lost her job,
Yeah.
the young man facing stigma because of his diagnosis.
Yeah, those stories, they really stick with you.
They do. They're powerful.
What do you think it is about stories that makes them so impactful?
Well, I think stories have this amazing ability to connect us.
Connect us to each other.
Yeah, to make us feel empathy, to challenge those harmful stereotypes.
Right.
Like when we hear someone's lived experience,
It makes it real.
yeah, it humanizes the issue.
Right.
It helps us see beyond the labels and diagnoses.
He's a person.
Exactly. See the person behind the label.
It's like a window into someone else's world.
It is a glimpse into their life.
So we can understand their struggles and celebrate their resilience.
And their strength.
And when we share our own stories,
Right.
we contribute to breaking down the stigma.
Absolutely. We normalize the conversation.
We do, yeah. It's like this ripple effect.
It spreads understanding and compassion.
It's powerful.
It's how we create lasting change.
It feels like we've been putting together this like giant puzzle.
Yeah.
Trying to understand like all the pieces.
Little actors.
Yeah, that go into mental health.
It is a complex puzzle.
It is.
Yeah.
And there's no easy answers.
No magic bullet.
No, like you can't just do this one thing and everything's fixed.
If only it were that simple.
Right.
Right?
But we can't just give up.
No, absolutely not.
We can't just be like, oh, well, this is how it is.
We can't resign ourselves to the status quo.
We can't. The fact that we're even having this conversation is a good thing.
I agree.
It means we're like at least trying to understand.
Acknowledging the issue.
We are.
Yeah.
And like you said, we're acknowledging that it's complicated.
It's not just one thing.
Yeah.
It's a whole web of factors.
It's individual, it's societal, it's systemic.
All of the above.
All of the above.
Yeah.
So where do we even go from here?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is. We've talked about education.
Right.
Social support.
Challenging stigma.
Yeah, all those things. But like, what can we actually do?
What concrete actions can we take?
To promote mental well-being.
Yeah, both individually and as a society.
Yeah, like what can I do today to help myself and help others?
Well, I think on an individual level,
Okay.
we can start by educating ourselves.
Okay, so learn more.
Yeah, learn more about mental health. Challenge our own biases.
Oh, that's a good one.
Really examine our own beliefs.
Yeah.
And speak out against discrimination.
If we see it happening.
Exactly. Don't be silent.
Okay, so that's what we can do personally.
Yeah. And we could also practice self-care.
Oh, yeah, take care of ourselves.
Exactly. Prioritize our own well-being
Mm-hmm.
and not be afraid to seek support when we need it.
No shame in asking for help.
No shame at all.
Okay, so that's individual. What about societal level?
On a societal level, I think we need to advocate for policies that support mental health.
Okay, so like laws and regulations.
Yeah, things that make it easier for people to get the help they need.
To access resources.
Exactly. And we need to invest in mental health services.
Make them accessible.
Yeah, and affordable.
So that everyone can afford them.
Right, because cost is a huge barrier for a lot of people.
It is. It is.
And then I think we need to create communities that foster inclusivity and belonging.
Like we were talking about before, that social capital.
Exactly, those strong social connections.
It's like creating a culture.
Yeah.
Where mental well-being is valued.
And supported.
And where there are resources available to everyone.
Regardless of their background.
Regardless of their background. That's the key.
It is. It's about equity.
Equity. Yeah. Everyone deserves a chance to be mentally healthy.
Absolutely.
You mentioned that program in Denmark before.
The one that was so successful?
Yeah, they didn't just focus on treating mental illness.
It took a broader approach.
They did. They looked at social isolation, skills training, access to care.
They really thought about the whole picture.
They did. And that's something that other communities could learn from.
Definitely. It's a model to aspire to.
Imagine a society where mental health isn't stigmatized.
Yeah.
It's embraced.
Where people feel comfortable talking about it.
Where resources are readily available.
And where everyone feels supported.
That's a beautiful vision.
It is. It's a world worth fighting for.
It is. And it starts with us.
With each of us.
Taking action.
In our own lives and in our communities.
It's about changing the way we think about mental health.
It's a shift in perspective.
To shift away from blame and shame.
Towards understanding and compassion.
We have to stop asking, what's wrong with you?
And start asking, what happened to you?
That's powerful.
It is. It changes the whole conversation.
It acknowledges that everyone has a story.
And those stories deserve to be heard.
They do. And when we listen to each other's story,
we build connections.
We break down barriers.
And we create a more compassionate world.
This deep dive has been amazing.
It has.
We've learned so much about how psychiatry and society are connected.
We've explored the impact of social factors.
The importance of challenging stigma.
And the power of supportive communities.
And we've talked about what we can do to create a better world.
A world where mental health is a priority.
For everyone.
For everyone.
Hopefully you're leaving this deep dive feeling a little bit more informed.
A little bit more hopeful.
And ready to take action.
Remember, mental health is everyone's responsibility.
It's not just an individual thing, it's a collective thing.
We're all in this together.
We are. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring.
Keep questioning.
Keep listening.